Welcome, one and all, to what I'm hoping will be a very spectacular run. This run is rather unique, and as far as I am aware, the only of its kind on YouTube. I do weekly Pokemon challenges, so if you're interested in seeing more of this type of content, feel free to like and subscribe to let me know you want more. Anyways, with that shameless plug out of the way, let's cover the rules. Rule number 1, no glitches, hacks, or cheats. I do, however, use speed up, otherwise these videos would take far longer to produce and I'd rather produce them quickly. Rule number 2, I can only use one Pokemon in battle. However, because I am not cheating, I do need to use a gem Pokemon for travel purposes only. And lastly, rule number 3, no items in battle. This doesn't include held items, as I use Everstones during some runs, and so other held items are also allowed if necessary. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. So, Pokemon Black and Pokemon White are pretty unique in that there are 3 rivals within this game. The first 2 rivals are Charon and Bianca, the 2 characters in our room here. After we pick our Snivy, they challenge us to a battle. We had to reset for an Adamant Nature Snivy, which took a while, but our Snivy will be a physical attacker during this run for reasons you'll see later. Anyways, the 2 battles against Charon and Bianca are very easy, we just trade tackles for a bit until we finally get through the 2 fights. After these 2 fights and talking with Professor Juniper, we're let loose to catch some Pokemon on Route 1. However, we don't actually catch anything. Instead, we battle 252 Patrat for their attack EVs. We don't do any further EV training after this point, but I did want to ensure that our attack stat had as much going for it as possible. As we exit the Pokemon Center, it would seem that Getsus has come to talk about... Well, that was certainly something. With Getsus' speech over, we move over to our next rival fight, N. Now, some of you may be confused, but N is a rival in this game, which means that there are actually more rival fights in this game than gym battles. Oh boy. Okay, anyways, here's our battle with N. He leads with a Purloin, which we take care of pretty swiftly with a Vine Whip. Very quick fight, GG easy. Next up is another rival battle with Bianca. Bianca leads with a Lillipup, but we're gonna have to put this poor pup down with a Vine Whip. Next up is Oshawott, who meets the same fate as Old Yeller before it. We continue on into the next city, where we have another rival battle with Charon within the trainer school. Like Bianca, he has also caught a new Pokemon, but he still leads with Tepig. We outspeed and land a Vine Whip for about half while it uses Ember against us. On the next turn, we again use Vine Whip, which procs Tepig to engorge itself with an Oran Berry to restore health before it hits us with another Ember. On the following turn, we knock it out with a Tackle. Purloin is up next, who falls to a single Vine Whip. After Charon, we do some boring errands in the Dream Yard, then take on Chili, our first gym leader. Chili leads with Lillipup, which faints to a crit Vine Whip from our green Danger Noodle. Pansear is up next, who gets all worked up after we land a Vine Whip. On the next turn, we tackle, but it follows up with an Incinerate. Chili then uses a potion to heal, but we tackle again and lower it back down. On the following turn, one more tackle finally takes down Pansear. After earning our first badge, Charon challenges us to yet another rival battle. He leads with Tepig, who we Vine Whip for significantly less damage this time. He answers with Ember and gets a burn, which cuts our attack in half. To answer that, we Leech Seed for a bit of sustain. We decide to start using tackles, but now Tepig is using Defense Curl to make our physical attacks do even less. Nevertheless, we continue to tackle while Tepig uses every move it has other than its single super effective damaging move. Finally, we turn him into bacon after a few more tackles. Next up is Purloin, who we attempt to Leech Seed but miss while it uses Assist and ends up using Defense Curl. We then Leech Seed successfully while Purloin Tail Whips us. We then break out the Vine Whip and do a good chunk of damage, then following up on the next turn to knock out Purloin. After handling a small issue with Charon and Bianca, we head over to the next city to take on the next gym lead. Oh, hi N. N interrupts our progress for another battle, and this time he leads with Pidove. We decide to use Tackle while Pidove lowers our attack, but on the next turn we take it out with another Tackle. Next up is Timple, but we go for a Growth to increase our attack stat back to where it should be. On the next turn we take out Timple. Timber then comes out, who we Vine Whip for a bit more than half while it uses Focus Energy, but on the next turn we take it out of Focus and knock it out. Lenora is up next, our second gym battle, finally, which actually took a fair bit of grinding. She leads with Herdier, who we Leech Seed while it uses Takedown. We begin setting up our growths, needing a bunch of attack boosts to one-shot the next Pokemon. Herdier actually misses a takedown and then uses Leer, so it's giving us a bit of leeway here to stack up our stats. Finally, it does manage to land a takedown after a few growths, and it does about half of our health, so I decide it's time to send this dog to heaven with a slam, one-shotting it despite Lenora healing it. Watchog is up next, who also falls to a single slam, earning us our second badge. After that, no rival battles this time, we head directly to Berg for our third gym battle. He leads with the killer tire from the hit horror film Rubber, and we decide that we should leech seed for a bit of sustain since this stupid bug wheel always poisons us. At this point in the run, we've learned Coil, so we can boost our attack, defense, and accuracy all at once. We continue to stack coils while the Wheel of Doom tries to poison us, eventually giving up and using Struggle Bug as it loses all hope of taking us out. Finally, we're ready to fight for real. We take out Whirlipede with a single slam. On the next turn, Dwebble comes out, but we've got a new move in our arsenal for that, Leaf Blade. This Dwebble in particular doesn't have Sturdy, which is a major skill issue because it faints instantly. Livani is up next, and sensing that we're about to absolutely obliterate it with Slam, it protects to stall, but we take it out on the next turn anyways, since the wrath of the Danger Noodle is inescapable. After earning our third gym badge, Bianca shows up again for another battle. She still has her dog with her, and sadly, her dog has angry eyebrows and scares my Danger Noodle a bit, so its attack is lowered. Not really that big of a problem though, because we've got Coil, one of the best moves I could ever ask for during this type of run. Sure enough, we take down Herdier with a single Leaf Blade after a bit of stacking. Muna is up next, who is also knocked out instantly. Then Panseer follows with another one-shot, and lastly, Dewat is also one-shot. After Bianca is dealt with, Charon is waiting for us literally only a few feet away. He challenges us to a battle in the middle of a Derude sandstorm, which to be honest is understandable since that song slaps. He leads with Pidove, who we leech seed on for some sustain as we stack. Surprisingly, that little pigeon did a number on us before we knock it out with a Leaf Blade. Pig Knight is up next, who we also one-shot, but we're starting to run out of health. After Pig Knight is Pansage, who we also knock out, but we've only got 3 HP left. Liepard is last up, and fortunately we outspeed and take it down. What a ridiculously close battle. We enter the next city seeking our next badge, but N decides to take us on a date on the Ferris wheel instead. He reveals some rather shocking information in that he is the monarch of Team Plasma, and he challenges us to another battle. This time, N leads with a Sandile, which is about to have a very bad time. Sandile puts an embargo on us, but that doesn't matter. We just stack up our coils, letting Sandile try in vain to do literally anything against us, but the happy little croc just can't do anything to the majesty of our Danger Noodle. After we've coiled ourselves into a reality-ending singularity, we finally use a return to knock out Sandile. Next up is Darumaka, who meets the same fate at the hands of a return. Sigilif is up next, who also falls to a return. And lastly is Scraggy, who, you guessed it, falls to return. Now, this next fight is interesting with Elisa. She has 2 Emolga on her team, both who know Aerial Ace and outspeed us. We had to grind for a bit for some extra stats, but eventually we're tanky enough to stack a few coils in one shot with return. Sadly, Emolga also has static, which paralyzes us and lowers our speed. The second Emolga meets the same fate as the first, but after that, Elisa sends out her Zebstrika. Now, Zebstrika outspeeds us, even when we're not paralyzed, but what makes Zebstrika difficult is that it also knows Flame Charge. We managed to get through the fight despite that, and the Paralyze though, earning our 4th gym badge. After earning our 4th gym badge, you already know it's time for Charon to feel the insatiable urge to challenge us to another rival battle. He leads with Liepard, who poses no threat to us at all, but it does use Torment, which makes stacking a bit more irritating since we can't use the same move twice in a row. We set up Leech Seed to stall a turn and then go for another coil before taking out Liepard in the next turn with a crit Leaf Blade. Next up is Tranquil, and we begin setting up another coil. Tranquil actually Gigabrains us though and detects our return, so we Leaf Blade on the next turn, being blessed by the crit gods once again. Pig Knight is up after that, who we hit with return and take out instantly, and last up is Pansage, who we knock out with a single Leaf Blade. After our battle with Charon, we solve some cold storage problems and then take on Clay. Clay leads with Krokorok, but we one-shot it with Leaf Blade, no buffing necessary. Next up is Excadrill, who we also one-shot with Leaf Blade, getting another crit. And last up is Palpatoad, who we also one-shot with another Leaf Blade. We take Clay's badge and begin our trek to the next city, but since we earned our badge, it's time for another mandatory rival battle. Yay. Herdier is Bianca's lead, but we just coil up as per usual until we're ready to fight. After a few coils, we knock it out with the Leaf Blade. Next up is Panseer, who we beat into the ground with the power of friendship. Musharna is up next, who falls to a single Leaf Blade, and Dewat follows suit soon after. With Bianca out of the way, we move through Chargestone Cave and have another battle with N. N leads with a Boldor, who, much like most opponents, poses no threat to us. We stack up our coils for a bit and then hit Boldor with a massive Leaf Blade, but Boldor has Sturdy, so we don't take it out instantly. On the next turn, we take it down with a Return. Joltik is up next, who we knock out with Leaf Blade. Ferroseed is after that, who takes 2 Leaf Blades to take it down, but since it has Iron Barbs, ends up hurting us a bit in the process. And last up is Clink, who we take down with a single crit Leaf Blade. We quickly run a pointless and uncool errand for Skyla, since she won't battle us because she wants to be a Jasmine copycat, but she won't even let us see what Pokemon she healed. Anyways, Skyla leads with Swoobat, but as usual we just set up some coils while the opposing Pokemon does its best. Swoobat has some powerful flying-type moves, but for some reason it only uses acrobatics twice, opting instead to raise its special defense. Weird. Anyways, we stack up a bit and take it out with a single return. Unpheasant is up next, who also falls to the power of friendship, and last up is Swanna, who we very fortunately crit return for the knockout. Oh, hey, look at that! Charon wants to battle us again. Okay. Charon leads with Unpheasant, but his Unpheasant is way prettier than Skyla's, and it also detects my Leech Seed since it has a Giga Brain, and then it taunts me so I can't even use Coil. I am absolutely in shambles. What Charon doesn't know, though, is that I have been blessed by the crit gods today, and I get a crit return, one-shotting his Unpheasant. Pignite is up next, who I also crit one-shot. Liepard is up next, who senses I'm about to crit again and fakes me out instead, and sadly it throws off our crit chain when we do land our next return. But another turn after that and we take it out. Simisage is up next, who we hit with a return while he crits us. He stole my blessing! Anyways, on the next turn, we knock it out. With Charon pacified for now, we head into the next gym battle against Bryson. Bryson leads with Vanillish, one of the best Pokemon to have ever existed, who decides that the best course of action is to stack up its defense stats against us. It does land a crit Frost Breath, but after we hit with Return, Bryson has to heal it up. One turn later, and it falls. Beartic is up next, who tries to show us his swagger, but we ignore it. Bryson heals, and another turn later, Beartic is down. Cryogonal is last up, who we take down with a single return. After earning our 7th badge, N decides to become the main character of the game and awakens his legendary companion, Reshiram. He then gives us a speech about Senpai! And tells us to get our own dragon if we want to step up to him. Well, we go get a stone from a museum, and then we're told to go talk to the next gym leader about turning our stone into a dragon. Stonks. On our way to the next gym, though, Bianca decides that she's more important than N trying to steal the main character spot, and so she challenges us to another battle. Bianca leads with Stoutland, who isn't much of a threat, but it does lower our attack and makes setting up take a bit longer. Stoutland tries everything it can, but it doesn't really hurt us all that badly. In the end, Stoutland falls to a single Leaf Blade, as was expected. Simisear is up next, and I do the internet a solid and take it off screen as soon as possible. Samurott is up next, who we also knock out instantly with the Leaf Blade, and last up is Musharna, who we take down with another Leaf Blade. After that riveting battle with Bianca, we find Ghetsis giving another speech about... Seems that the crowd is conflicted about Ghetsis' speech, so let me know what you guys think about Ghetsis' speech down in the comments. We talk with Drayden and Iris and then challenge Iris to a gym battle for our last gym badge. Iris leads with Fracture, who uses Dragon Dance several times to make itself faster and stronger, but we're also stacking our coils. We end up using Return and taking down Fracture before it can even do anything. Dredagon is up next, and after one more coil, we hit a crit Return to take it out. Haxorus is Iris's last Pokemon, who also falls to a single return. Oh, and don't worry, since we got another gym badge, Charon didn't forget to challenge us to his mandatory rival battle. He brought Bianca this time, and I'm frankly surprised they didn't send all of their Pokemon at me at once. Anyways, Sharon leads with his Unpheasant, who this time doesn't taunt, instead trying to big brain us by using Detect, but failing since we didn't intend on attacking anyways. On the next turn, it uses Air Slash for a considerable chunk of damage, but we coil again. Finally, it uses Taunt against us and forces our hand, prompting a cataclysmic event where we return in one shot. Embor is up next, who also falls to a one-shot return. Lipard follows soon after, knocked out by another return. And last up is Simisage, who also falls to return. Okay, story time. Chantal was the hardest out of all of the Elite Four, and we had to re-strategize a bit for this battle. See, Cofagrigus likes to use Will-O-Wisp, but if it lands Will-O-Wisp, we cannot get through this particular Pokemon with enough health or stats to one-shot the Chandelure. But even with that, we don't have any good moves for Chandelure since Return won't hit it, and Leaf Blade is bad against Fire types. My solution was to grind for a bit for more stats to swiftly deal with Cofagrigus before it uses Will-O-Wisp, and to backtrack and grab the TM for Aerial Ace, which will come in handy a bit later too. Anyways, we take out Cofagrigus with 2 Leaf Blades after it misses Will-O-Wisp. Chandelure is up next, and here's where things get a bit spooky. We use Aerial Ace hoping for a crit, but sadly we do not get one. Chandelure uses Payback, thankfully, and it does get a crit, but we change its ability to Mummy. On the next turn, we take it down with another Aerial Ace, so the fight is going pretty smoothly, all things considered. Jellicent is up next, who we one-shot with Leaf Blade, and Golurk is last up, who we Aerial Ace on accident twice, but finally we take it down with the Leaf Blade. Caitlyn is up next, who is a bit less of a challenge than Chantal. Caitlyn leads with the Reuniclus, who hits us with a Psychic while we coil. We continue with this same turn a few times, coil and Psychic, until Reuniclus takes us all the way down to 1 HP exactly. We then hit it with Return and knock it out. Sigilith is up next, who also falls to a Return. Musharda comes out after that, who we also obliterate with Return. And lastly is Gothitelle, who also falls to one last Return. We challenged Grimsley next, who actually had a few tricks to annoy us with. He leads with Scrafty, which unfortunately knows Poison Jab. We use Aerial Ace twice before it can poison us, and instead we choose to set up on the next Pokemon, Bisharp. Bisharp knows X-Scissor, which does hurt, but it's not a stab move since it isn't a bug type, and we're raising our defense each turn with Coil. Finally, we go for a Return, and even with all of those coils, still don't take it out. Bisharp hits us again, and we're down to 7 HP, but we swiftly take it out. Lipard is up next, who we one-shot with Return, and Crocodile is last up, who we easily one-shot with Leaf Blade. The last of the Elite Four is Marshall, who, while wasn't much of a challenge, was pretty entertaining. He leads with Throw, who we choose to set up on. We use our coils while Throw tries desperately to annoy us, using Bulldoze to lower our speed as much as it can. After resigning ourselves to just being the slower Pokemon for this battle, we max out our attack stat with more coils before we finally decide to take out Throw with a single Aerial Ace. Up next is Mienshao. However, Mienshao takes one look at us and nopes right out, U-turning back into Sock, who is promptly hit with an Aerial Ace. But since it has Sturdy, it doesn't get knocked out. Marshall heals, but we take it all the way down again, proccing Sturdy once more. Marshall heals again, but again we take it all the way down. Finally, on the next turn, Sock Karate chops us, but we knock it out. Mienshao is sent out again, but it again nopes out on us and sends out Conkeldurr, who comes face first into our Aerial Ace and is knocked out instantly. Mienshao was then sent out again as the last Pokemon, and even then it still tries to flee with another U-turn, but it fails since it has no more meat shields, and it falls. Now, this next fight is hard to discuss. See, Black and White as Pokemon games are more story-driven than any other official Pokemon game in existence. The consequence of this is that as a result of narrative and message, Game Freak has decided that after awakening the opposite dragon to N, in our case, Zekrom, you must catch this Pokemon in order to progress the story. And when you do catch this Pokemon, it automatically takes the first party slot on your team. From what I understand, there is no way to circumvent this. I tried knocking out Zekrom, but if you do that, Zekrom doesn't go anywhere and just fights you again. There is no way that you can go into the next end fight, the last end fight, with only Snivy. It is impossible without editing the game in some manner. I say all of this to explain why I'm using Zekrom. I cannot not use it. If I switch out Zekrom on the first turn, Reshiram will always hit a Fusion Flare on Snivy and take out 90% of its health even with the Eviolite. So, my solution, as unfortunate as it is, was to just use Zekrom's weakest attacking move since it also has no attacking moves. I would do this until it was knocked out. In this case, Zekrom did a bit under half damage to Reshiram. We then send out Snivy, our true partner during this run, coil once while Reshiram recharges from Hyper Beam, and then knock it out with a return. Up next is Vanillux, who we just barely don't one-shot with return while it uses Hail. N then uses a full restore, but we predict that and go for another coil. We then land another return and take down Vanillux with ease. Klinklang is up next, but we predict that this is the Zoroark and knock it out with a single return. The real Klinklang is up after that, who we return for about half while it uses Hyper Beam, taking us to about half. We coil while it recharges, and we then finish it off on the next turn with another return. Archeops is up after that, and we decide to coil again while it uses Acrobatics. We then use a return and take it out instantly. Last up is Caracosta, who we Leaf Blade, but since it has Sturdy, it doesn't fall. It then uses Stone Edge and takes us all the way down to 28 HP, but we finally land Leaf Blade and beat N. Okay, so with N out of the way, there's only one battle left. Yes, N was the champion of the region, but Ghetsis was the puppet master this whole time. And unfortunately, Ghetsis was one of the most annoying fights in the game, save for that previous fight with N where we're forced to battle with Zekrom. In fact, since the cutscene with Ghetsis begins right after our battle with N, we still have Zekrom in our party. There is a trick though. We can intentionally lose to Ghetsis, and doing so sends us back to the Pokemon League where we can box Zekrom so that we only have Snivy on our team. We can then head back to fight Ghetsis, who is just there waiting for us. This aspect of the game is really weird, and I'll probably talk about it at some point, but whatever. The real issue is that Ghetsis has a Cofagrigus that loves to spam Toxic. If it lands Toxic, then just like with Chantal's Cofagrigus, we cannot fight the rest of the Pokemon because our health will be far too low. I tried this battle a ton of times, and eventually I came up with an answer, that answer being Taunt. I backtracked through the game and managed to find the TM for Taunt, which would prevent Cofagrigus from using Toxic and allowing us to set up. Starting off our battle with Ghetsis, he leads with Cofagrigus, who we taunt immediately and stop the Toxic. We then use a coil while Cofagrigus uses Shadow Ball against us. On the next turn, we coil again and take another Shadow Ball, but now the taunt has worn off, so we do it again on the next turn and once again stop a Toxic use. We continue to use Coil, tanking and stacking as much as we can because we need it for the rest of his team. Cofagrigus takes us down to 31 HP, and then the taunt wears off, which is exactly when we decide to Leaf Blade for the one-shot. Hydreigon is up next, who we one-shot with Return. Seismitoad is up next, who falls to a single Leaf Blade. Electros follows next, who we take out with Return. Buffalot is up next, who also feels the full might of Friendship as we knock it out with a single Return. And last up is Bisharp, who we actually fail to knock out while it uses X-Scissor, taking us all the way down to 11 HP. Ghetsis then uses a full restore and we return again. One turn later and we take it down. And with that, the run is done. This run was really easy for the most part, but I did notice that there was a sharp increase in difficulty right when we started the Elite Four. Both N and Ghetsis were surprisingly strong, forcing me to rely on predictions and even backtracking for TMs to ensure that we could counter those few issues we did come across. All in all, this run was very fun outside of the endless rival battles with Sharon and Bianca. Also, the end sequence to this game actually doesn't show the ending time for how long the run took. Very odd. However, I did manage to grab a screenshot of how many hours my save has on it, that time being 18 hours and 31 minutes, becoming the new fastest Pokemon challenge on the channel, beating out Turtwig in Pokemon Platinum by a total of 3.5 hours. I don't know if future Unova-themed runs will be in Pokemon Black and White or Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Black and White forces that last battle with N to have more than just the desired solo run Pokemon, and I'm not sure if that invalidates the run since Game Freak themselves forced the fight to involve both of the dragons. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, it would really help me out. Anyways, I streamed this run over on Twitch, which I plan on doing weekly. Also, if you liked this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe as it would help me out a lot. If you're really interested in coming and hanging out, feel free to follow the link below to either my Twitch, my Twitter, or my Discord. This has been Shro, and thank you for watching.